It's not up on the page though.
It's not on the page.
Mm-mm. It says happening now, but the actual.
The stream. I just hit the button for the stream.
Oh,
So you might want to refresh the page and see because it
oh yeah, you're
is
right.
live now. You
Yep,
see yourself? Okay.
we're here. Hey, Facebook family. Make sure you encourage, get people in. It is just about that time. You see how to share it?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. We're live in a couple of seconds. Hello, Esther. Hello, Mel. Welcome to the conversation.
Hi. Yes, hello.
Hello, and welcome to Living Strong, the flip side of adversity. I am Dr. Virdra Jackson, the CEO and creative behind Living Strong Consulting. We are so excited to continue this conversation around leading, but using what are generally called soft skills, but they're actually the stabilizing skills. And this evening, we are talking about soaring. How do you actually begin the process and maintain the process of soaring, even when you are looking around and others are receiving accolades, opportunities that you feel like it's my time? Why haven't I gotten that yet? But even in that moment, in those seasons, there's an opportunity for you to tap into an emotional grounding, to recognize and remember what's for you is for you. And I'm excited about our guest. If you've been following me on social media, you know that I've been excited to share my sister friend with our flip side community. So let me introduce her to you. Katina Christmas Robertson is a global trainer, speaker, and leadership development consultant who delivers workshops, keynotes, and coaching in a wide variety of ways to various audiences. She's also the executive pastor of Forward Impact Life Ministries. Film, where her husband and best friend, Reverend C. Eric Robertson Jr., is the senior pastor. Film began in 2016 as a coffee house style Bible study in Coatesville, PA, which expanded to full ministry in 2018. Eric and Katina are proud parents of triplets, y'all, triplets. Kayla, Ava, and Charles III, Trey, who were born January of 2010. And like those triplets, Katina also is a PK. And for those of you who don't know that phrase, it is pastor's kid, which definitely shaped her future. As a PK, Katina started speaking publicly at age 5 and was teaching Sunday school by 13. Seeing ministry behind the scenes, she has also developed a knack for implementing process and building leaders. Throughout her life, she faced challenges of racism, sexism, which deepened her relationship with God and her dependence in recognizing her relationship with Him, and it ignited her passion for the empowerment of young people and women everywhere. She is committed to helping equip people for success in life through coaching, training, and mentoring. She is a certified life coach, certified Maxwell leadership and development consultant, and is currently pursuing her MBA from Drexel University. And today, I'm excited to talk about her current project, which is her first book. It's Time to Soar, the second edition. So join me in welcoming my girlfriend, my sister friend, to the Flip Side conversation. Welcome to the Flip Side, Katina Christmas Robertson.
Oh, it is so good to be here. I'm so honored to be here. I love the flip side. How are you going to find a flip out of adversity? And that's what our God does. So I appreciate the work you do, and I'm excited to be here. Can't wait to chat.
You know, I want to jump right in because I'm curious, especially with the timing of the release of your book. Tell us why we're even entertaining a conversation around soaring.
It's important that you do what it is that God put in your heart and in your life. And the myth is that I'm good. And a lot of times people, you see emptiness. It's time out for working 60 years at a company for a watch that breaks, or a watch. If it doesn't break it, God put so much in us. And I'm looking in the eyes of people that are going to a job, not doing what God passioned them to do, and not being fulfilled. And something inside me is like, wait, you can be free. You can be free. And I want to just break the chains and like shine a mirror on people and say, hey, do you know how great you are? So right now is a time for people to know that there's so much more.
There's a powerful season that people are in right now. And I think there's an opportunity for not only those who aspire to leave the job and walk in boldness of recognizing there's still more for you to offer, but also I've been speaking with leaders who are committed to the job they're in, but they're feeling tired and honestly contemplating quitting. And I feel like our conversation today will serve both of those camps, because I've heard you speak so passionately around the desire, the ability, the gifting, and the favor to not just settle, but actually soar. And so where in your story do you feel soaring became your trademark?
It was when I had an eye-opening experience on the floor of a trade show. And trade shows, for those who don't know, it's where you're telling everybody what you do and you're vending, you're inviting customers over. And I was there with folks that were the sales folks. And I was backing down and letting them take the lead because they're taking the lead and they're selling what I do. And then I was listening and a light shined. Why am I not the voice telling people what I do, selling what I do? And the more I stopped separating what I do daily, what's in me, from the job and the title, the passion came out, and I became known as the closer. I became known as the one that there's a scene in Will Smith's Independence Day where he's dragging this dead alien through the desert. And so they called me like the closer, and they're like, when she shows up, she's dragging customers back to to the building. She is not going to leave without people being ignited. And I realized I was stepping back because a title made it seem like I didn't have the right to talk about what I did. And then I found errors. I'm like, you're not as passionate about what I do as I am. So I began to open my mouth, and I'm telling you, an inferno lit on the inside of me, and
Yeah.
walls came down.
The skill and will of finding your voice, I think, is something that many people, especially in such a divided and scary and uncertain and unstable season that we're in not needing to step on somebody else's neck in order for you to feel stable, but also recognizing you belong at the table and you can actually include others but not dim your light. It's an opportunity for there to be unity, connection, but you also begin to realize I do have something to add, and it's not about a title.
Absolutely. And I don't drive a stick shift, but I've watched people do it. And it's like this delicate balance between, I guess, the clutch and the gas. And if you do it wrong, you spin out, you burn out the clutch. And so there's that part of you that can see things. And when God places something on the inside of you, you can watch it be done poorly and it will stir you up. And you're like, I could have done that. And that's great if you allow that to ignite you and find your voice. But there's a flip side to that where you become critical and you see it being done and you know, or you feel like you can do it better. And you immediately begin to criticize, you immediately begin to pull it apart. And instead of it lifting you up, you are tearing them down, even if you don't say it. And inside there's a negative energy, there's a churn that starts to happen. And so to me, people find their voice in a positive way, or they can find it in a negative way and realize I have something to bring to the table. Now you can knock down the door and say, I belong at the table, or you can arrive to the realization that you belong to the table. And then you come in and you sit gracefully. And you take command of that atmosphere. And it's just two different ways to do it. And one of those ways, you never really get to the table and you're liked. You just slam yourself down because you feel like you deserve it. So that stick shift, that clutch and gas, to me, that was a struggle for me. I waited so long that I watched it happen. And instead of me being inspired, I was so used to being told that my title didn't earn me a voice or earn me a vote. I started to become critical. So
both of those are contagions within organizations, within businesses, within congregations, within groups, sisterhood. Both of those can be contagions. And I think it's an opportunity for us to begin to internally explore which one is it and what element am I. Is this actually more about me than it is the other person? In the description and setting up for today, you provided an opportunity for us to think about and challenge those moments where I'm watching somebody else receive the accolades, have the opportunities that I feel it should be my turn, and it's not happening, and it becomes toxic. So what are some strategies or approaches from your perspective helps us move from that place of being stuck?
So it's important that you have a relationship with God. You need to start your day with him. And if you haven't, whenever you figure out that you haven't, take a moment and align yourself. That is a strategy, because when I quiet myself and I listen to God, he'll show me and say, the last 6 things you said were negative. The last 4 conversations you had, you got a little animated, you got a little, And my husband and I have worked through, and he'll say, "Babe, I'm not your enemy." When he said, that's like our keyword, that's our phrase. "I'm not your enemy." That means I'm spiraling in my head, in my thoughts. And so I have to take a moment and stop. So I suggest you take a moment, breathe, and stop and challenge your motives. What am I doing this for? And when you realize what you're doing it for, and when you celebrate yourself and celebrate someone else, and realize that they could open a store doing the same thing I'm doing right next door. They're not going to do it like me. When you start to celebrate, you allow God to tell you, "I made you unique. I made you different. I gave it to you. You're going to say it differently." They don't have your experience, your testimony, your color, your blend. They don't have your flavor. And you have to understand that it's okay for me it's okay for me to celebrate my flavor and not step on yours.
Yes, there's room for both because of the uniqueness
Yes.
of what we're going to deliver. And because I feel like at the root of that is fear.
Mm.
There's a fear that there isn't going to be enough of something, or that something fictitious, but something is going to run out because this person has gotten something that
Mhm.
I wanted. But in actuality, if we are focused and remember that what's for me is for me, and on their best day, they cannot take up what was meant for me. But I
Yes.
think that's a truth that you have to mature into. Would you say that?
I would absolutely say that. And that is why I say align with God, because you can align with God at every level of maturity. You can start worshiping and having a life where you expect to hear from Him and expect His guidance, and you're not always ready to hear what he has to say. So that's your path, that's your journey. And you want to manifest greatness, and God knows that'll break you if I give that to you right now. And so you've got to have a practice where you understand that God said, I created your path. Your steps are ordered by me. And if greatness is in you, I'd be a bad daddy to let you burn in passion to want to do something and not give you the opportunity. So then when you know that, if you love me and you're going to give me the opportunity, you've given me these gifts, I'm not up there yet, then Lord, what? What's my next step? And when you stop and you ask him and you trust the driver, you have now moved out of the pilot and you're letting him drive.
Yeah.
And what I found on the other side of that is you waste time burning in jealousy, envy, frustration, fear, because it's not your time. Where it's like, this was your training camp. This was the time where I really wanted you to hone this. This is where I wanted to give you this. And when I give it to you in a year and a half, it's going to be sustainable. It's going to be bigger than if you just bust the door down and take it now. And when you trust God to drive and that his timing is perfect, then you settle in to your process and you allow him to grow you step by step.
I think it's an opportunity for us to reckon with that the process is more important than the destination, because we've already been promised that we're going to win. We've already been promised that even regardless of what happens, in his hands he will turn it into your good and for his glory. So if we know that that's the ending, there's an opportunity for us to move away from losing time, as you said, around jealousy, and begin to recognize what character traits do I need to cultivate in order to get ready for the very platform, gift, opportunity, position that I am focused on. I still have some stuff I need to work on, because if I got it now, I would squander it. So it sounds like there can be a wrestle that people go through. Can you kind of describe a wrestle that you have gone through and that you felt you needed to work out when you were in that place of emotional unrest?
Oh, absolutely. I have baggage, which helped me get to
I
that
think we all
place.
do. We all do.
So part of my baggage, I remember when I went to, my encounters at Penn State, one of them, I was working with a group, and we're in science and biology, and I had answers, and somebody assumed that I was there on the Black
Mm-hmm.
scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I am all for making a way where there is no way.
Mm-hmm.
I was there on academic scholarship, and they treated me a certain way because they had an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I provided my answers. We did the research, we did the experiments, and we submitted them, and they didn't put my answers in. Well, we got it wrong, and mine were right. The professor didn't know that because the group made a decision,
Mm-hmm.
and it scarred me. And it scarred me, and I allowed it to drive me. I allowed it to drive me, not in a way, well, I wanted to make sure that people knew I was smart. People knew that I belonged at the table, and it became overbearing.
Okay.
And so that was my baggage. So I brought it with me and didn't realize
Mm-hmm.
that I'd brought it with me. And so there was a defensiveness that would show up whenever anyone challenged or even asked questions about something that I might have felt very passionate about. And when I realized that I was becoming aggressive or becoming combative or
Mm-hmm.
defensive, I had to check myself. And I didn't check myself through me, it was the Holy Spirit. And I say, Lord, show me. When you ask that question,
Ooh,
we
that
say, it
question
sounds
right there.
good. That one right there. And he doesn't do it right then. And so you get up from prayer, like, hallelujah, thank you, we're good. But he drops it on you in the midst of your process. See, I don't get to tell him when to drop that realization on me.
Mm-hmm.
But when he showed me my ugly,
Mm-hmm.
it cut me so deep to realize I had behaved so badly
Mm-hmm.
that I was repentant.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I never want to go back there.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that come from?
Right. Right.
And then he showed me where it came from. And I had to go back to that place, and I had to speak to that place and say, you don't define me. I'm sorry you didn't take my answer.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't change the fact that I was right.
Right.
And there are times when I was wrong. It doesn't change the fact that I'm smart.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change the fact that I have something to bring to the table. I'm human, and I allowed myself the grace to be human, and I allowed them the grace
Mm-hmm.
to be ignorant and unlearned, uncultured at that
Mm-hmm.
time. And I let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And I began to see things differently.
It sounds like forgiveness.
Oh,
That not being, and I challenge that sometimes people will feel like they're being bold when actually they are acting out of a place of pain and woundedness.
Mm.
And until we are brave enough to recognize and go back to that place, forgive. It's not saying that the person was right or that you are ignoring the fact that it was wrong. It's really just that I'm not going to continue to live from that moment forward and continue to go reach back there to try to pull that into this moment and it somehow change that moment, release that moment so that you can have new moments.
absolutely.
How would you say those who you have coached, who you have supported in leadership development, how does the impact of not really reconciling your own wounds and character flaws as a leader, how does that keep you from actually soaring?
There's a part in the book there's a chapter in the book that I love, and it's tethered.
Mm-hmm.
And if you rent a balloon person for a fair or something, you pay a price, and they'll allow people to get in the balloon and go up, and they'll keep it tied to the ground, and they come back down so people experience the balloon flight. But the path of the balloon, it is managed by that tether.
Mm-hmm.
And so people start to move laterally. So I'm coaching folks, and I'm watching them, and and they get frustrated because you've done everything on this level.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that tether has you bound.
Mm.
You realize that
Mm-hmm.
there's something stopping you. And when we can get through our conversations for it not to be external, but
Mm-hmm.
for them to start to introspect and start to see, oh, wait a minute, that's me. So they did it to me, but my response, my carry, created a tie,
Mm-hmm.
created a tether, created a bond, created a link. And so that's what we explore is where are you stuck?
Mm-hmm.
And why are you stuck? And you'll find people flourishing on one level,
On one level.
lateral moves.
And the powerful thing, we've talked about this before on the show, that an organization, a business can only, and you know this from John Maxwell, your organization can only go as high as the lid of the leader. So if I'm tethered and I'm continuing to be lateral, I can't get confused or frustrated that my people aren't growing because I'm not growing. I'm not lifting.
Mm.
And therefore, that's the reason why they're not lifting. And we can't expect people to begin to do the internal work if we as leaders are not willing to do the internal work to soar, which will actually set other people free to do the same.
That weight
Mm-hmm.
was so huge for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was so ugly when I saw it
Mm-hmm.
that I wanted to go back and cut everybody free.
Mm-hmm.
But what I realized was when I started to live free, the Lord allowed the opportunities for them to then come back to, and me to encounter them, me to be able to encourage them. And I'm watching as people are getting free.
Mm-hmm.
COVID had us stuck in the house, looking at ourselves, living with ourselves, and maybe not liking ourselves, maybe not liking some things. If we did that right, we came out of COVID soaring. If not, we need to be cut free.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got all this stuff like, oh, I see all of this. And so many people are there. They're either there, they don't know that they're stuck, or now I know I'm stuck, but I don't know how to get free.
How do they do it? Give us some strategies. What? Because I can literally see people who are walking around carrying those weights, and they want to lift higher, but they can't. What are some things?
So you have to look at the weight.
Okay.
And it's intentional. On the balloon itself, when they're ready to go, they drop sandbags off of the balloon. It's intentional. It's an intentional act. You've got to be willing to untie the weight. And the big piece of it is, but it wasn't my fault.
Mm-hmm.
It happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm this way because my dad was this way. I'm this way because my mom was this way. You've got to be willing to move past the fact that it's not your fault, that it started with someone else, and own the fact that you picked it up. And that's the mental work. And people have to make the decision to no longer blame externally, even though they started it, but to realize I've been carrying it and I didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you realize what it is, you identify what it is, and then you've got to acknowledge, yep, this has been a hindrance, because people compartmentalize and they are awesome at it. They put it in a back room and they function from the front room.
Yeah, I think you are stepping on some people's toes, because people will put stuff in a closet and function as though they are healed until someone steps on something that was fragile, or turn the knob on that and some bones start falling out, and we're scrambling to try and get them packed back in. But it's actually, let's open this up, let's explore it, and actually get healed from it, so that when you are soaring, and this takes me back to what you started with, because it is generally the stuff that I'm tethered to that will keep me stuck and will make me angry when I see somebody else free.
Yes.
And if we can move past those moments and really begin to recognize I don't have to continue to look at somebody else, that there are things that are specifically for me, but if I don't get ready for them, I will squander them when they show up. Were there turning points for you in your own leadership journey where you shared the one around recognizing your voice? Were there other turning points and things that you began to realize would help you soar in where you are going now?
Absolutely. I teach disc.
Mm-hmm.
So when I realized that my style and that intention versus impact was huge,
Yes.
and that kind of related to my baggage,
Mm-hmm.
it was just that this is how I am,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of love me the way I am. And I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I was selling myself out if I altered my approach. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not changing by altering my approach. I'm respecting and valuing how you receive me, because it's more important for you to get what I'm giving than for
Mm-hmm.
me to be right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that I always had to be right. I always had to be right. And I would figure out how to be right. And
Mm-hmm.
that was growing up as a kid, and as a,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a joke in the family. But I am okay with being wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes to help folks tell me
Mm-hmm.
that I'm wrong,
Mm-hmm.
I had to adjust my style so that I was more approachable. I used to feel like, well, man up and just tell me the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But encoding and decoding communication, it's my responsibility. I meant this, but you took it this way. It's not necessarily my fault that you took it the wrong way, but it's my responsibility to help you take it the way I meant it,
Yeah.
and finding the difference between that.
I think sometimes that people will misinterpret that as, well, I'm just being me. I'm just being authentic. When actually, no, you're hurting people. You're
Right.
being misunderstood. Not actually asking you not to be authentic, but recognize, if I'm going to be clear, communicate well,
Mhm.
and help others be enlightened and grow, I might have to uh, adapt, change, and be flexible with how I show up in spaces,
Mhm.
so that what I'm trying to deliver, we actually get to the end outcome, not just doing it my way, but the overall bigger picture of a healthy outcome for everybody. But sometimes that whole current culture of, I need to be authentic.
Authentically me, authentically myself. Don't change for nobody, and and that's a misnomer. You're not changing.
Mm-hmm.
You're adapting. You're flexible. You're
Mm-hmm.
flexing. And we're a resilient people. Women are resilient.
Yeah.
We are able to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
And adapting doesn't mean changing. It
Mm-hmm.
means, like you said, the bigger picture is bigger
Yes, it's
than me
bigger than
being.
your. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than me being right in this moment. And I love
Absolutely.
what Kendra just shared. A listener, she said, the power of a pivot.
The power of the pivot. Absolutely. She's a basketball player. So,
Oh yeah. Oh,
she's
oh yeah.
trying to get good points with her coach. But absolutely, the power of the pivot. You still maintain control of the ball,
Yes.
but it puts you in a different direction. And
Mm-hmm.
and so just that misnomer of feeling like you're changing yourself for other people, it keeps a lot of people stuck
Mm.
right where they are, because they don't understand the difference between flexing and adapting for the
Mm.
greater cause, and
Mm-hmm.
selling yourself out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's your favorite chapter in the book? Is it
I,
tethered
I
or?
say tethered, but then stuck on right
Mm-hmm.
is another one. And like I said, when you begin to watch the energy leave a room,
I was getting ready to ask you, what are the warning signs about stuck on right tether? Like, what are your warning signs? What can a person become more aware of when they're headed down a path that's going to leave them stuck or tethered?
when you find yourself always explaining to somebody the conversation you had and how it was misunderstood, misinterpreted, and I'm just going to leave them alone. And when you find that you have lots of those conversations, there may be something that you're doing to bring about a similar response. And I don't know what the sitcom is, but they're like, I'm surrounded by idiots. Everybody around you is just now. And I say that I hawk myself up. I'm like, oh, okay, Katina. So now everybody around you's dumb. Everybody around you just can't get it. No, no, no.
Yeah.
It's you. You're speaking Greek right now.
Mm-hmm.
Pull it together. And I take a reset and I have these feelers out. What's the body language of the folks that I'm talking to? Where did the energy? Everybody was creative. They had really good ideas. And in my excitement and in my ID self, that's disc speak, I'm jumping out there with an idea and I've shut down the room. And so because I am no longer married to being right, I can see that I've shut down a room and I can reverse it and work hard to bring that energy back and make sure that they understand I'm dialed back. What you say is important.
Mm-hmm.
And if I disagree, there's a way that I need to disagree so that we walk away better as opposed to me shutting you down. So that just read the room.
Read the room. And when you said that, it actually took me to a conversation I was having earlier with a coachee, and recognizing that in those moments, we also need to be willing to acknowledge what we saw. I just noticed something happened in the space and I want to speak to it. Or what I just said, I just watched you turn away. Did that impact you? Because I want to make sure you understood what I intended to say. But oftentimes, people will watch a space shift, someone's facial expression change, a mood shift, won't speak to it, and then leave the moment and write an entire script about what they assumed the person was thinking or feeling, instead of actually elevating the moment by creating an opportunity for people to recognize we can have tough conversations and survive. And you actually see me so intentionally, the nuances of my body language even matter.
Oh, absolutely. And that sometimes we hide behind I'm non-confrontational, or I'm just 0 to 60, so I just don't deal with it and I just had to walk away. And that's not taking ownership. And that's a mature place that you arrive when you realize the sign is the opposite of a buy sign. They're not buying what you're saying. In fact, they're impacted negatively. And I've reached out and I've touched. I said, "Oh my goodness, I see your energy shifted. You were excited and now you're not. I saw your face. Nothing that I said should warrant that face. So obviously I didn't say it well." And I've learned to say it. I wasn't clear. When I used to say, I said it clear, I spelled it out, I wrote it in bullets, I typed it up, there's an email, there's a printout, there's an SOP.
Yes. that whole, you should have understood. I said it the way it needed to be said.
And then that's putting the ownership on the other person to interpret what we meant. And then you say, well, why would I have? And when you start to ask a person why and have them weigh in on what you were thinking, those are signals that something that you're doing, your impact is not matching your intent.
So we had a question from one of our listeners. Is there any place that you still feel stuck?
Any place that I still feel stuck? There's parts in the book that talks about snags. I wouldn't say stuck.
Ooh, snags. Can you break that down?
Oh, absolutely.
The difference between being stuck and snag.
So I'm giving so much of this book away. Y'all buy this book.
Yeah, they are. They're going to buy it. We're going to tell them exactly where to get it from.
So like the things that dangle from the balloon, like you cut yourself free, but you're not fully healed, and it's tender, and it gets stuck on stuff. And that's what I mean by a snag. It's like, oh, I'm over it. But the minute you say something else, if it brings back a feeling, and everybody's into therapy now. And so everybody's talking about trigger. You trigger me. You trigger me. Well, that's an example of a snag. Stop letting people trigger you.
Right.
Because I've got such an important work to do. I can't walk around like a ticking time bomb and be somebody in my audience, in my class, just trigger me. And now I've got to retreat. No. I need to be authentically me because I've got a message that needs to get out. And you need to understand that nobody gets to trigger you and cause you to be another self. And when you identify that, you're willing to shave down every snag, every snare, every snippet. And I want all of it. I want all of it. When I went back and I saw some of the things, and there's some residue, and I have a safe space that I say, hey, is this my snag or is this me protecting me? Is this a snag? And my husband has a couple of questions that he asks me, and that group of friends that I throw it to, they'll say, hey, this
Yes.
feels like a snag.
Yes. So there's a need for accountability as well, creating a space with people who will hold you accountable without shame, but continue to recognize you are entitled to soar. So that snag,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to get in your way.
Absolutely. It could get caught on something.
Mm-hmm.
And just when you were finally getting free, it snags you back.
But I found that people will get discouraged because they'll say, well, I thought I was over that. And then it's almost like there's a discouragement when it recognizing that this is a process. You still are not the person you used to be. So recognize, celebrate where you are now, but continue to recognize this is a journey. It's not just about a destination. So there are things that you're going to have to continue to kind of prune, as our Lord said. He's going to continue to prune
Yes.
things, because as you get higher and higher,
Absolutely.
and that air gets thinner and thinner, there's a lung capacity you're going to need in order to be in elevated places. So it's not that you didn't heal. Healing is a process. And just because something still snagged you doesn't mean that you go back to a place of feeling ashamed. It's, I am here at this point. You acknowledge it. Acknowledge that it served you as a survival strategy for a period in time, but it is no longer serving you now.
Absolutely.
So how am I going to be true to what that's about so that I can move forward?
And people say that. People say it on two sides of their mouth. They say, you know, what I went through made me the person that I am. And the training wheels made me the bike rider that I am, but I don't still wear the training wheels. And so we need to acknowledge, like you said, acknowledge what it did in my, it was tragic and I overcame it. And that process taught me how to trust in the Lord. God, I'm thankful that you brought me through it. And now I don't need the impact of that trauma in my life anymore. So you can tell it bye. And you have to tell it by, and sometimes you have to do it daily. And you do that by what does God say about me? I am not my trauma. I'm not my divorce. I'm not my molestation. I am not the stuff that I went through. I am the head and not the tail. What does that mean? That means he puts me above and he allows me to soar. He has created me to soar. He's gifted me with incredible gifts, talents, anointings, and abilities. And he's got doors for me to go through. So I can't go through with the trauma of my 8-year-old self.
Yes. And speak to that 8-year-old self and set her or him free.
Absolutely.
Cheryl asks, can your snags also show up as denial?
Oh, absolutely. Because we build a whole self around those that have dealt with trauma, those that have dealt with, we build in our mind constructs, and they're not always sound or safe. And especially if we build them as a child, it's our new normal, it's our new truth. And so when we get faced with real truth, we're in denial because we've disassociated ourselves from the actual event, and it has taken on a different meaning, a different form. So it is important that we, again, have that channel open for God to tap us gently and lovingly on our shoulder. Because some of what God has for us, some of us are waiting on spouses, but the Lord said, you'll destroy them now if I let them in now. I want this to be healed. And you can't deny yourself all the way to the altar. It's not me, it's not me, it's not me. You have to admit this happened. And some of the stuff we did. And it's okay.
So forgiving yourself.
Give yourself the grace.
Yes.
Forgive yourself and say, that was my last week self. I'm different this week. And I'm exaggerating, but even things that are recent. Some people feel like they haven't earned the forgiveness because it's recent. Look, this is not your credit score. This is grace and the power of the Holy Spirit to move you to another person, to the next version of yourself. So give yourself that grace.
Something that I was talking with someone else earlier in the week about is recognizing that I think sometimes the assumption is I want the change. I see what somebody else has
Mm-hmm.
and I want the change. I just want to feel better. I want to do better. I want those opportunities. But can you talk about the need for diligent daily work? I, because I got into a conversation where someone, and I caution people to look at somebody else's life
Mm-hmm.
and make an assumption that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, you got everything is going great for you. And this takes daily work. It's the small, daily, consistent
Mm-hmm.
things. So, can you talk about the act or the importance of the daily work it takes to begin to soar?
Think about the habit that you had, the thing that happened to you when you were 8.
Mm-hmm.
If you're 25, let's do the math. How many years have you lived with that? You want to go to the altar, get touched, and it's gone forever? No, your mind remembers that.
Yeah.
Even though God has forgiven you or healed you, there is a residue that you have to talk down. You have to be transformed and renew your mind, because your mind is part of your soul. Your soul remembers. It remembers the smells. It remembers the feels. It remembers what you felt like when it happened. And you have got to take the word of God, the truth of God, and speak truth, which is the opposite of the lie that has caused you to not soar. So it's diligent because it may pop up, and you have to remember your authority over it. And you have to wrestle it to the ground with truth. You have to wrestle it to the ground. Otherwise, you'll be stuck. And 45 minutes later, you've been dwelling on that thought and allowing it to ruminate, allowing it to, and then you put together a whole script.
A whole script.
A whole script.
45 minutes of ruminating and being upset over that hurt.
And putting it on other people.
Oh my goodness. No, she didn't. She said putting it on other people.
Making them responsible for your joy and your peace. And some of the people that hurt us are dead or long gone. Some of them are still here.
I think that's why forgiveness is so important. It's not validating the fact that that what they did was okay, but it's recognizing that I can't stay tied to you. I can't stay tethered to you.
Absolutely.
And complete the assignment that's in front of me.
Absolutely.
Well, so would you say that you are in a place where it's your turn now?
I would say I am, and it crept up on me because I realized I was spinning in circles, and that there was work that I needed to do. So I busied myself doing the work, and I didn't forget my dream, or I didn't forget where I was going, but the work of forgiveness, the work of healing. I get so excited as I'm learning something, now I'm teaching it. As I'm learning something, now I'm giving it. And as I'm doing that, as I'm getting free, it's been putting me in places where I'm seen, and I'm not trying to be seen. If that makes sense.
But I think that's an important point, because sometimes if we go back to the beginning of our conversation, that what can distract people is I'm trying, hustling, grinding, pushing people out the way to get seen. When actually what I just heard you say is if I focus more on the process, the healing, the internal growth, and my ability to then articulate it to others, the opportunity to be seen will happen naturally. I'm not going to have to fight to be seen.
Absolutely. And let me be clear. That's not saying that I don't need to market or do any of the work that's associated with business or getting gigs or getting jobs. It is that I don't have to scratch and grind.
Because there's a difference between creating business and being busy.
Yes, there is a difference.
There's a busyness that can actually, that isn't productive, and it becomes more about you're running from or trying to outrun something that you actually aren't believing about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, when you get clear on who you are,
Mm-hmm.
you then understand, similar to our conversation, I believe it was last week, that God said a man is worthy of his wages. So when you're clear on who you are, who God has said you are,
Mm-hmm.
that he has given you a purpose and a plan, and that if I do not help others understand that I can add value, that's just creating a marketing plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's creating business, which is different from being overly busy.
Absolutely. And you know what people will do? Will compensate. I remember I was taking lessons with James Poyser,
Mm-hmm.
and he wrote and he misspelled intentionally in my book precision. And he said, "You are killing this part of the song and this part of the song, and this part you are not killing." He said, "What you do is you go over and over what you already know, but you avoid this like the plague." And that is the daily work. That is, we will overcompensate. If my potato salad is terrible, I'm going to do up my chicken. I'm going to do all of this, and never you touch my potato salad. Whatever the thing is that we struggle with, we compensate. I'll be the best this, I'll be that. Oh, I just need to be in the background because I don't really want to do the work that it takes to be in the front, even though that's where I'm called. Or I just walk away when it starts to get tough because the work are those hard conversations. Oh, I'm an introvert. That's nothing to do with hard conversations.
I'm an introvert too, but constantly called to talk to someone, to be on a stage. It doesn't, I think there's opportunities when we will avoid recognizing that I need to actually look at this. And I'll say, yeah,
But look how
yeah,
amazing my
yeah, but,
chicken is.
uh-huh,
Right?
right.
No. I need to mature to that place where this is something that I need to work on.
Mm,
And when you give it to the Lord and
mm-hmm,
you say, this is an ugly part, and
mm-hmm,
I know you want excellence. Help me, because sometimes you don't even know what to do. You don't know what the steps are, but he knows,
mm-hmm,
and he will guide you, and he will bring you a friend that gets on your nerves, that
yeah,
will point it out, that you will still love.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Somebody that'll stay
yeah.
and love you through it, and you
Hold you
can be
accountable.
accountable.
Mm-hmm. Hold you accountable.
Absolutely.
So I want to make sure people understand how to find the book. Tell us the name of the book again and where they can find it.
The book is It's Time to Soar. It says you'd be over it by now if you could just let go.
I love that. I love that subtitle. I love that subtitle.
Listen, when you and listen, I want to just warn you. I'll go back to where you can find it. I want to warn you that once you get over it, don't count the years or the months of your wilderness.
Mm.
You can get stuck in, oh, I wish I would have known this 10 years ago. How
Get
much
over.
further? Yes, get over even that and
Mhm.
celebrate that you're free now. It is on Amazon, and my website is www.katinachristmasrobertson.com. The link is on there, and that's Katina with a K, Atina, Christmas just like the holiday, Robertson, Robertson.com. And there is a link to the book. And we are also having our first workshop on Soar, December 17th in Exton, Pennsylvania, at the Conference Center. You will find a link on my website for that as well. And that's where we're going to unpack some of these challenges and begin to, what you'll leave with is strategy, and you'll do some hard work.
Mhm.
So if you're ready to do the hard work, if you're ready to be coached through how to soar, how to identify, how to address, how to dismantle and disarm those things that are holding you back, then this SOAR workshop is for you. Again, that's December 17th, and all that information is on my website.
I'm thinking about the person who is in a place of exhaustion and fatigue and feeling unseen. and they're just saying, is this even worth it anymore? What do you say to them in encouraging them to still soar?
People forget how amazing they are, and it's important that they know. And I want to tell you, if that's you and you're listening, I want to tell you that God, and it's so cliche, but God doesn't make junk. He's running the whole world. He made you, and he made you spectacular, even if you haven't seen it yet. He created you fearfully and wonderfully, and then he put a plan together. He said, my plan for you is good and it's not evil. Even though you may have gone through some tough times, that's my opportunity to carry you through. And I've got something amazing for you if you just trust me. That's what I hear him saying. If you trust me to lead you out of this, I will take you and make something beautiful out of your life. You are worth the wait. You are worth the process. You are worth the effort. And if you don't mind, I want to pray that the Lord would just send you the right person, or that you see the person that he's already sent to help you soar, to help you see how beautiful you are, how awesome you are, how incredible you are, and begin to unearth and excavate the greatness that's already in you. You don't have to work so hard. And a lot of you have been doing flips. Some of you have done some flips in your relationships to make somebody love you. Listen, God's got somebody that already loves you and is willing to cover you, willing to be in covenant with you. Stop doing flips. Stop taking the abuse, and realize that you are amazing already. Yep, he saw what you did. He heard what you said, and you're still amazing. You're worth the process. Take a minute and start to cut yourself free, because it's your time to soar.
There you have it. Yes, indeed. I know, Juanetta. I felt that. I felt you speaking specifically to that person in which it is time to make that flip. And you can live strong on the other side of what you've been through. So thank you, my sister, for an amazing conversation. This has absolutely been a joy. And we encourage you, listeners, stay with us, same time, same place next week, right here on the flip side. Awesome. Thanks, Josh. You too. All right, Facebook community, thank you for the support. Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you for absolutely being a part of this conversation. Make sure you share this conversation on your social media pages. Encourage others to purchase the book. The link is in the comments, and let's encourage our sister. She has stepped out. Do you have time for one more question? We
I
always
do.
ask one or two questions that's just for the Facebook community.
Absolutely.
So this might be a sensitive one.
Okay.
So, second edition.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about that?
So I hemmed and hawed on the book. I second guessed myself. I doubted myself. And I had a writer's cruise where I had to present the book and launch the book. And I wrote it, and I was insecure about my product. Still breaking free from the imposterism, that imposter syndrome, feeling like I didn't belong, feeling like it wasn't worth it. And I put it out. And I still felt bad. And so I went back through it, and I spoke with other folks that read it. I was like, was there anything that was unclear, anything that I could touch up on? And there were a couple comments, but nothing earth shattering, like in my mind it was. And so I added some things. And I relaunched. And this time I was confident. This time I talked to myself. I said, girl, you got a book.
Yes.
And people need to hear this book. And you're holding it. And I was at a conference a couple weeks ago, and they said perfectionism is selfishness.
Ooh.
Because You believe that what you have can impact somebody's life, and you're going to hold on to it because your website's green and not greenish blue. You're going to not launch because you're tweaking this, that, and the other thing, and somebody's life lays in the balance. And they were being dramatic,
Yes.
but it's basically you're tweaking and twisting. And can they still live from what you wrote?
Yeah.
And so I say I'm over it, but I check myself now about, am I being too picky?
Yeah.
Get it out there and get some folks free.
Yes.
Just do it.
I knew there was a whole story behind that because you just spoke to somebody who is still kind of in that revving up stage. Launched the book, finished the book. She talked to me too. It's okay. I can say it to you because she's talking to me. So finish the book. Stop second guessing. Don't expect it to be perfect, but recognize it is what you were meant to do. But as long as you hold on, have a chokehold on it, it's not going to be able to breathe and give life and encourage others. So whoever you are that was for, I didn't step on your toes. It was her. It was Katina.
That's what we're doing.
She said, write the book, finish. Yeah.
Open the door, make the call, take the interview.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I think that's an opportunity for people to really reconcile, am I good enough? And what God told me to say, is that good enough too? Yeah, so there's a whole that's part 2. Facebook community, again, make sure that you share the link, share the conversation. Let's elevate and support our sister and get this conversation in the hands of the masses. Thank you so much. Don't forget, it's time to soar. See you next week.